It seems like everybody who's shot this show has come out saying, wow, there's something special about the story Trek. And I've heard that from pretty much everybody who's ever worked on the show. And they see those serendipitous moments and say, that was meant to happen. It's pretty cool.
You're watching BYU TV on KBYU DT Provo, Salt Lake City.
Good Monday, Cougar Nation. After a week away, we welcome you back inside the Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by JCW's The Burger Boys. At 4-3 on the season, the Cougars coming off their bye week with a third of 3 October home games. This coming Saturday as Northern Illinois visits Provo for our first ever meeting between the Cougars and the Huskies. We're looking ahead to the weekend and back on the Cougs' last game as well before the bye, as we visit today with offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes in the first half hour of today's show and special teams coordinator Ed Lamb in our final 30 minutes. We are coming to you live on BYU TV, BYU Radio, Sirius XM 143 and 107.9 FM. We are also on the BYU Football Facebook Live page and ESPN 960. You can get us live and on demand at BYUtv.org, BYURadio.org, plus the BYU TV and BYU Radio apps. We invite you to be a part of the show on social media as well. You can submit questions on Twitter using the hashtag CCBYU or via comments on BYU Football Facebook Live. We open today's broadcast with BYU offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes joining us. And Coach Grimes, we didn't get a chance to congratulate you last week, so congrats on that nice home win over Hawaii to get you to 4-3 on the year.
That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, we needed that one. And really proud of our team. You know, I told our offensive players after the game that sometimes when you work hard and do the right things, you don't get an immediate payoff, because I really felt like our preparation, even the previous couple of weeks, had been pretty good. I think our guys have shown up to practice every day. I think they've tried to be coachable and do what we ask. Things just hadn't gone our way in the previous 2 weeks. And so I commended them for continuing to work hard and believing that sometimes you just got to keep grinding and know that the payoff will come at some point, and certainly it did Saturday.
It was a 49-23 win, and pretty much, I mean, there will be little things here and there, but pretty much I would think that everything you wanted to get done offensively more or less got done.
I think so. Obviously, we kind of established a little bit of a new identity with a new quarterback, and not a radical departure from who we have been, but certainly some new wrinkles to the offense, and got an opportunity to see how Zach would perform under the lights, but also how everyone else would mesh with him. One of the big things is wanted to start fast, and so we were able to do that better than we had previously, and at the same time we were able to finish strong as well. So I felt like we did have a little lull there, but at the same time, you know, when you're playing another team, and those guys are on scholarship and they have good coaches too, so you'd like to score every time and have equal scoring in every quarter, but that doesn't typically happen. And
UH did come in playing well. Let's not forget that. Let's backtrack to a couple of items on that Hawaii game. And you mentioned the good start. It was a great start for the Cougs. First possession touchdown, second possession touchdown, 14 first quarter points equal the first quarter output from the preceding 10 games combined. And in the Satake era, BYU's now 10-2 when they score first. They've lost only once when they take a lead into the second quarter. Really good jump from your guys to open things up.
Yeah, and again, that was something we talked about all week, but sometimes you got to be careful about how much pressure you put on them to start fast, because you don't want them to feel like if you don't have a good first series, then all is lost.
Then now
and so,
what?
Yeah. And so we talked about just putting our foot on the gas the whole game and starting fast and playing fast. And I said, whether we score on the first drive or not, I don't care, but we want to go out there playing full speed and be aggressive from the first snap to the last. And I felt like we did that for the most part.
You referenced the new quarterback, and since we didn't visit last week, can you revisit the decision to make that QB switch after 6 games?
Yeah, it was not one that was done without painstaking labor and a lot of time and energy put into making certain that we were making the right decision at the right time. And certainly it had been talked about previous to that as well. And so this was, I think, the culmination of a number of things coming together. The fact that we hadn't played well was a big part of it, although it certainly wasn't all Tanner's fault. There were a lot of people to blame for us not really moving the ball as effectively as we needed to the previous couple of weeks. But at the same time, it's kind of like if you got a leader on any team, and the team isn't progressing, so we're not moving the ball, we're not scoring points, you can't just continue down the same road. So that was part of it. The other part of it was we just felt like Zach was ready, and honestly, I'm not sure that we had felt like he was any time previous to this. He has continued to work and get better, and I give A-Rod a lot of credit for continuing to work with him. And the thing is, a guy doesn't just get ready that week to go out and perform like that. This has been a process that went all the way back to last January when Zach first started coming around and started practicing with us. He's been preparing himself for this moment. Zach has worked really, really, really hard to get himself ready for this moment. Aaron's done a great job coaching him, and he's continued to progress this season. So there were a number of factors that led to it, and I feel like it was the right time.
I think it's fair to say, too, that the August criteria upon which you based your initial decision were not the same as the October criteria that caused you to change course a little bit.
Yeah, and you know more about who you are, and you know more about yourself as a team. You know what you have and what you don't have, and we felt like we needed to do something that would provide us a little bit more playmaking ability at that position. And in his first start, anyway, Zach did that.
He makes you harder to defend, generally speaking, too, doesn't he? Yeah.
He does. He brings some things to the table in terms of his mobility, in terms of his ability not just to run and scramble, but also to extend plays down the field and then throw the football later. And what I think a lot of people may not take into consideration, it's not just the times that he actually runs the ball, it's the time that the defense has to prepare for the fact that he might run the ball.
Just account for him.
No question.
Yeah. Zach Wilson does end up with the best pass efficiency rating of any true freshman making his first start at BYU, and at 167.5 on the PER. It was BYU's first game above 150 against an FBS opponent in more than 2 years. BYU, by the way, has now won 34 straight games at 150 or better. Zach goes 16 for 24, $194, 3 touchdowns and a pick for a first start. How'd you like it?
I thought it was really good, and certainly there are some improvements that he could make, and there are a couple of throws he'd like to have back. But all in all, really, really good. And the thing I liked about him the most was just the look in his eye. I never thought he was nervous. I never thought he was anxious. And, some guys get in that position and you say the moment was too big for him. And that certainly wasn't the case, nor did it ever seem to be.
There was a poise and an ease of operation back there that was kind of palpable. Do you sense the same thing about him?
Yeah, no question. And I noticed it even in pregame warmups. I like to just kind of stand around and watch the guys who are going to be playing in pregame warmups and see the look in their eye and the feel of their movement. And I was watching him throw routes with the receivers in warm-ups, and somebody was running a corner route, and Zach said, hey, it needs to be a little bit flatter than that. And then the next receiver, who was an experienced receiver, stepped up, and he looked at Zach, and he said a little bit flatter, and he said, yeah, it's going to be flatter than that tonight. So he broke it off a little flatter, and Zach threw it right to him. And so he's got poise, and he's got, for a young guy, he's got a natural leadership about him as well.
Okay, before we hit the break, what can you say about what Tanner has given you as your starter when he was in there, and about what he now gives you in a different role?
Well, Tanner won some big football games for us. Let's not forget that. And in those games, he did what was necessary and gave us what was needed, and not just in the throwing game, but in the running game as well. Made a lot of really crucial decisions and good checks and that sort of thing. He's been a good leader. He's been a positive voice in the locker room. And even throughout this, he's handled this as an absolute professional. And I had a great deal of respect for him before this, but even more so now.
Excellent. All right, heading into break on the Coordinator's Corner. When we come back, more from offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes. If you have questions for the coach, we invite you to send them in. Use the hashtag CCBYU on Twitter. Back with more from Coach Grimes right after this.
They prefer to be bringing the heat, getting set for success, demonstrating their drive. But when their blood and sweat turns to tears or anything else, we lay the groundwork for BYU's athletes to hit the ground running again, and you as well. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
A great week of entertainment awaits this week on BYU TV. Tonight at 7 Mountain, it's all new sketches full of all new comedy that will have you rolling. Relax with the family and laugh the night away with Studio C. Then, Greg Wrubell invites our favorite coach, Kalani Sitake, for a look into the BYU football season and the team. It's BYU Football with Kalani Sitake. Live tomorrow at 6 Mountain. Watch your favorite BYU TV shows here and catch up anytime on BYUtv.org or the BYU TV app.
I ain't got no chill.
The BYU TV Sports Postgame. BYU versus Northern Illinois. Saturday after the game. Blue runs deep on BYU TV. Don't miss the BYU San Francisco women's soccer game. Thursday at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. Watch all of your favorite BYU teams on BYU TV, your home for Cougar sports.
Yo, man, I'm about to get crazy over here.
I thought you said it was like a masterpiece.
The scorpion stung me.
It's like a masterpiece in the sense that it's not one.
The poison.
You're already dying.
Oh, yeah.
2 for 1 style bar, baby.
Woo!
Sir, I don't think this is gonna work.
Writers have to have a thick skin.
Yes, I see you wrote that on page 20.
Maybe try less bad cop, more good cop.
Don't miss Studio C tonight at 7 Mountain on BYU TV.
And we are back on the Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by JCW's. Dinner after the game at JCW's includes something for everybody, from burgers to wings, shakes to salads. JCW's quality, and a lot of it in Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, and coming soon to Harriman. BYU now 4-3 on the season after a 49-23 home win over Hawaii 9 days ago. Northern Illinois coming in on Saturday for a 1:30 afternoon kick. Offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes with us until the bottom of the hour. Beyond quarterback, Coach Grimes, where else was this offense simply better from, say, the Utah State game to the Hawaii game, in your view?
I think every position played better, and I think some of that had to do with just how we started the game, and I think we've still got a young group when you look at the number of freshmen that are playing, and then some of the older guys that are on our team have been a part of games that haven't necessarily gone well, that didn't start well. And so I think we still got the kind of group at times that plays better when things go better early on. And so we obviously want to make that an emphasis as a staff. But I think a lot of it had to do with that. But the offensive line played better. The receivers played better. I think everybody played better overall, and it was, as has been the case in our other wins this year, it was a collective effort.
BYU rang up a big number running the ball without Squally Canada against Hawaii. Do you think you get him back against NIU?
I would assume so. That's not the case yet, but we've shown that we can play at running back as well as other positions with a number of characters back there. And we have made the conscious decision all year long to continue to say that the competition is ongoing throughout the season. And a lot of teams tend to settle in a little bit more at this point. We want to keep the pressure on our guys and make them perform weekly to earn their reps. And that'll be the case this week at running back for sure.
Without Squally, Lopini Katoa, Riley Burt, the primary ball carriers. Matt Hadley became involved as the game went along, but Zach Wilson had a long run longer than either of Lopini or Riley's longest scampers against Hawaii. He came on a 3rd down and 16 from the Hawaii 23 on the second drive of the game, quarterback draw for touchdown.
Yeah, and that was a play that we haven't spent much time on to this point, and put it in this last week and felt like it would be something. We've had it in our system, and it's one of those plays where, when we built this system, we said we wanted to be a versatile enough offense that we could play with a number of guys at other positions, particularly that one being quarterback. But the draw and the quarterback draw are things that we installed back in spring ball. Obviously haven't spent much time on it prior to this week. This week we put it in, and I felt like it would be one of our first third and extra long calls, and the red zone is a nice time for that, and it just kind of worked out perfect, and they were in the right coverage for it, and Zach ended up making the one guy miss and scoring. So it was a great job by him, as well as everybody who was involved in the blocking.
And a good call. It's just 2 games, but off that point you just made, in both the USU and the Hawaii game, Zach Wilson lost some defenders with some pretty shifty moves, got some shake to him, and he's already shown just how he makes you a little harder to defend, as we talked earlier, because they have to respect that ability.
I think so, and I don't think we'll become the kind of offense where your quarterback leaves the game running it as many times as he throws it. I don't think we want to be that kind of offense, but I think just giving the defense that element to prepare for, it sort of brings the game back to an even mathematical equation. Once defenses became greedy enough to stack the box and say they were going to stop the run with numbers, it became harder to run the football, and that's been the case for a lot of teams, and it's been the reason that teams have gone to running the quarterback more in recent years, and so we're back to playing 11 on 11.
There we go. Courtesy of BYU football media relations director Brett Pine, this note: 25 freshmen have played this year for BYU. 10 of them have started. Of the 10, 8 have started on offense, including 3 offensive linemen, a tight end, 2 wideouts, a running back, and a quarterback. That's a lot of the offense. Coach, very impressive to have so many young guys having impressed you enough to get on the field and play that much this season.
It really is. And those guys are all guys that we felt like would make an impact going back to last spring when I first got here. Most of those guys are guys that we felt like would make a difference for us, even those that quite honestly we hadn't even signed yet. You know, when I got here, Zach was on his official visit the weekend that I first came. Dallin Holker hadn't signed yet. Gunnar Romney hadn't signed yet. Yet at the same time, we felt like both of those guys, as well as Zach, were guys that could make an impact on our team. And so as a staff, we spent time working on those guys and recruiting them, and then development with the other guys who were here on campus. And you know, as is always the case, the credit is twofold. Part of it I got to give to the coaches who spent time recruiting them. You know, Fessy to bring in Dax Milne, you know, to work to get him here, and to get Gunnar here. And you know, I've already mentioned A-Rod there, Ryan with the offensive linemen, and Steve with Dallin, and AJ with Peony. You know, there are a lot of coaches who have spent a lot of time getting these young guys ready to play at a high level. And, you know, football is one of those sports that is difficult to play at a high level at a young age, both because of the physical requirements and the physical strain. But a lot of credit to those guys, as well as these young guys who have come in and played big roles for us.
So you said you had just gotten here when Zach was making his official back in the winter?
Yeah, that was the weekend I was actually here being announced. Yeah.
Okay. What were your impressions of him at the time? Did you have a chance to talk a little bit or not?
Yeah, and Kalani and I had been talking about him previous to that time when I came for the press conference. Kalani and I had been talking about him, and I had already started talking with Zach a little bit and liked his film. And so, yeah, that was a chance to meet him in person and kind of start the face-to-face relationship. But there was a lot that happened in those next few days, for sure, because some other people were trying to make a late push for him as well. Understandably.
Piggybacking off your thought about the freshman, BYU scored 7 touchdowns against Hawaii. And by the way, 7 from 7 different players. The last time BYU had a game where 7 different guys scored a touchdown was 1989, so it's been a while. But of the 7 touchdowns, 4 came from freshmen. Lopini Katoa had 1. Zach had 1 on the draw we talked about. Dallin Holker had 1, and Gunnar Romney had 1. And Gunnar in particular really coming along nicely, Jeff. It took him a while to get going, in part because he wasn't really healthy in camp, right?
Yeah, Gunnar's one of those guys that we felt like would be really good for us and productive early on because of his skill set, but wasn't able to do much almost all of camp, and so it has taken him longer, but we're certainly pleased with his progress of late.
All right, coming up next, more with BYU offensive coordinator Jeff Grimes, including a look back at the bye week, what got done, and your questions for the coach using hashtag #CCBYU on Twitter. This is the Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by JCW's The Burger Boys. Back with more right after this.
This October, see the good in the world with exciting shows on BYU TV. Laugh till you cry with all new episodes of your favorite sketch comedy known as Studio C, Mondays at 7 Mountain. Visit with Kalani Sitake as we discuss the BYU football team on BYU Football with Kalani Sitake, Tuesdays at 6 Mountain. It's a new season of Relative Race with more puzzles, relatives, and surprises along the way. Sundays at 7 Mountain. There's something for everyone here on BYU TV.
A foundling hospital. A vow of friendship. A ruthless matron.
Do as we say!
And a self-willed girl with plans of her own.
Don't miss the next episode of Heady Feather, Sunday at 6 Mountain on BYU TV.
Some say if you're looking for the soul of America, you'll find it right here in Memphis, Tennessee. But if Memphis is the soul of America, then what's the soul of Memphis? From the banks of the Mississippi to the neon lights of Beale Street, that soul's hiding somewhere, and I've got to put it all in one painting. Join me as we paint the town of Memphis, Tennessee.
Don't miss Painting the Town tomorrow at 8:30 Mountain on BYU TV.
All right, here in the Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by JCW's The Burger Boys, BYU and Northern Illinois, coming up Saturday afternoon at Wrubell Edwards Stadium. Should be a great afternoon for football. It'll be a night game, by the way, at Boise State the week after. We just found out moments ago it'll be an 8:15 Mountain Time kick in the first weekend of November for the Boise State game. Keep that in mind. BYU, by the way, pays a return visit to DeKalb, Illinois in 2020. Both BYU and NIU 4-3 coming into Saturday's game. And both teams, Coach Grimes, coming off of byes. What did you and BYU want to get done during your bye week?
We spent time at the first part of the week practicing with our guys and just continuing to try to develop them and make improvements on areas that we need improvement. Certainly our third down offense is something that we know we need improvement. And so we spent some time there. Then we spent some time on the road recruiting, and then as coaches, we spent some time the last few days as well, studying ourselves, doing some self-scout, finding out what we're good at, what we're not as good at, kind of the direction that we want to go the back half of the season.
Looking at NIU, top 50 in scoring defense, top 50 red zone touchdown percentage allowed and pass efficiency defense, top 15 in yards per play allowed, top 15 in sacks. They have a headline maker in defensive end Sutton Smith, jersey number 15 for NIU. You've seen their defense enough to get a feel. Man, they're good at keeping scores low.
They really are, and it's one of the more impressive teams that we've looked at this year on film. Really aggressive style up front. They commit a lot of numbers to stopping the run, and they don't just do it in one or two ways. They support the run and load the box with everyone from trap corners to safeties to extra backers. When your 11 personnel is on the field, they do it a number of different ways. And then their personnel is good as well. Their front is aggressive, incredibly active, move a lot. Their linebackers play downhill, get to the line of scrimmage, try to take you off your double teams as soon as possible. So this will be a real challenge for us offensively.
They're 22nd in turnover margin, 23rd in takeaways. They depend a lot on sudden change plays. And as you saw in their game against Ohio, their last game, they're in a bit of trouble in that game. And then Sutton Smith gets a strip sack late in that, leads to a game-winning touchdown. Huge defensive play turns into the offensive difference maker for them as well. And
that plays such a big role in games. And if you look at our games, every game that we've won, we haven't turned it over, or we've turned it over once. And then in 2 of the 3 games that we've lost, we've turned it over multiple times. And so that was one of the things that we talked about this morning as an offensive staff, just going back and the most simple thing of ball security and continuing to emphasize that in practice being a big deal.
At BYUJR on Twitter for Coach Jeff Grimes. He says we were able to travel from Happy Valley, Oregon to enjoy the energy at Wrubell Edwards Stadium against UH. The running back platoon worked well that night. Do you foresee continuing down that path if Squally returns? And in either case, will Riley and Matt still get touches? Burt and Hadley. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. Again, that's one of the things that we have sort of made one of our mantras as an offensive staff this year, and that is that the competition is ongoing and the depth chart is continuously fluid. And as was the case at quarterback last week, and Matt Hadley getting more carries this week, that will continue to be the case. And the guys who earn the reps in practice will get the opportunity to prove themselves in games.
By the way, Matt Hadley's been bouncing around a bit this year. Nice to have a guy so versatile, right?
He really is, and he's a great kid, and I love what he brings to our team and to our offense in terms of maturity and toughness and confidence, and was really happy to see him get that opportunity to have a couple of nice big runs.
How's the Keanu Seliapunga experience coming along on offensive line?
Really good. I have no question that he is going to continue to grow as he does every week. Still makes some young guy mistakes, but the benefits certainly outweigh those times when he makes some of those mistakes that young guys will make at times.
Okay, I have 22 random stats in front of me here. I'm going to pick a number between 2 and 22 because number 1's a defensive stat. Number between 2 and 22, I'll give you the stat, and then you can give me the real-world application of what it is we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, pick a number between 2 and 22.
12.
Stat number 12. All right, some trends for you right here. These are all since 2005. And just so you know, me personally, once a win-loss correlation gets to 85%, that's when I start to really pay attention. Like that to me is like pretty strong, I think.
Okay.
These are all right in the neighborhood. BYU, in scoring 30-plus points, has a 92% win rate now. He scored 49 against Hawaii. When scoring a touchdown on the opening possession, 85% win rate. And you had an opening possession touchdown against UH. When leading at halftime, I like this one. 89-11, 89% win rate since 2005. And when leading after the third quarter, lock it down, 96-9, 91.4% win rate. Those are all trends that kind of, I guess they're intuitive in a lot of ways. Get a lead is good, right? But the 30-point number held, the leads all held. The trends that tend to hold for BYU were all in evidence against Hawaii.
Yeah, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, Greg, but I just think we have such a young team right now, particularly on offense, that when we play well early, we tend to play a little bit better as the game goes on. What we need to do better is when things don't go as well early, and I'm not asking for this to take place, but the opportunity will arise for us, if not this Saturday, then the next one or the next one after that, when things maybe don't go our way early. And I'll be interested to see how we can be mentally tough enough to dig ourselves out of that. When
resiliency is required. One more number between 2 and 22 for you.
2.
Number 2. All right. Oh, like BYU's most frequent penalty. And we know that penalties don't have a strong win-loss correlation in and of themselves. So we go in with that. BYU's most frequent penalty remains offensive holding. People might go, it's an O-line thing. Interestingly, for you guys, only 5 of the 14 offensive holdings are against offensive line starters.
Yeah, so we went through all those this morning, talked about them as a staff, and talked about how we can help decrease those. So penalties sometimes don't have a strong correlation to win-loss ratio, but I do think it says something about your team. For instance, we've only had 2 illegal formation penalties all year. With all of the shifts and motions and various formations that we run, I think that's pretty good. The penalty of holding often comes when a guy's trying to do his job, and so sometimes it's more of an effort penalty. Nonetheless, it hurts you even more than an illegal formation penalty. So it's one of those things that we have to address as a staff and make sure that the players understand that even though you're trying to give good effort, your technique has got to be better the back half of the season, because just like we saw in the Washington game earlier, we had 2 of those on that first drive that really killed us.
All right. Thanks for playing along, by the way, on the Pick Your Stat game.
Enjoyable.
We debuted it without any foreknowledge here today, so there it is. All right. We will see you, in a couple of weeks, I guess it is.
Sounds good.
All right. Enjoy your bye week from the show next week. All right. Coming up after the break, I'll be joined by BYU Special Teams Coordinator Ed Lamb as we continue on the Coordinator's Corner, brought to you by JCW's The Burger Boys here on BYU TV and BYU Radio.
Hi, I'm
AAA agents like Rich are popping up where people are having doubts about insurance, like at an open house.
So what questions do you have for me?
Do we have to have insurance before we even buy the house?
If you want to outsmart insurance doubt, visit a AAA branch.
Call it a path. Or a way through. It can be arrow straight or have twists and turns. It's life's financial journey, and Mountain America Credit Union is here to guide you every step of the way. With timely advice and affordable products, this is your journey. Let's begin together. We're Mountain America, guiding you forward.
AAA agents like Leticia are popping up where people are having doubts about insurance, like when it comes time to buy a car.
So how can I help you today?
What if I decide to become a rideshare driver?
If you want to outsmart insurance doubt, visit a AAA branch.
Hi there, how are you? My name's Todd. Nice to meet you. Can we put you on our TV show for a second?
If any lesson can be learned from the story track,
I felt misunderstood. I felt like there was no one in the world who was going through that thing.
I hope people will understand that they're special.
I'm a believer.
They're important.
I'm a believer.
That guy right there saved my life.
They have a compelling story. They are worth getting to know.
Watch the story track tomorrow at 8 Mountain on BYU TV.
Blue runs deep on BYU TV. Don't miss the BYU San Francisco women's soccer game, Thursday at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. Watch all of your favorite BYU teams on BYU TV, your home for Cougar sports.
I ain't got no chill.
The BYU TV Sports Countdown to Kickoff, BYU versus Northern Illinois, Saturday, 2:30 Eastern, 12:30 Mountain on BYU TV. Dinner after the game at JCW's includes something for everybody, from burgers to wings, shakes to salads. JCW's quality and a lot of it in Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, and coming soon to Harriman. We're into the second half of this week's Coordinator's Corner broadcast on BYU TV, BYU Radio, ESPN 960, BYU Football, Facebook Live. We welcome in Special Teams Coordinator, Linebackers Coach, and Assistant Head Coach Ed Lamb. Your questions for Coach Lamb welcomed using the hashtag CCBYU or via comments on BYU Football, Facebook Live. Ed, good to see you again.
Thanks, Greg. Good to see you.
How was your bye week?
Oh, it was good. I thought it was productive at the early part of the week with the players from a work standpoint, and then later in the week, the players got some rest and the coaches got out recruiting, and there's benefits to that too. And it's just enjoyable to have a change of pace, and now everybody's excited to get back at it this afternoon.
Well, it's been 3 weeks since we've chatted here on this show. A lot has happened since your last visit. The most prominent piece of news, of course, change at starting quarterback. As assistant head coach, can you give us a sense of the kinds of criteria that went into making that midseason decision?
Well, I don't know most of the details of that, to be honest, but I just know that in general, there's a lot of sometimes protection around whoever the starting quarterback is, and we don't think that way in terms of linebackers or wide receivers or running backs, and there's some reasons why I think that's a valid way to look at the quarterback position, but another way to look at it is it's not about the guy who was replaced, it's about the guy who's coming in, and I think in that way it's very relevant to everyone else on the team, where you don't consider the feelings or the performance necessarily of the guy who's coming out, but it's the opportunity for the guy who's coming in. And in that case, I think I'm excited about what Zach did with his opportunity.
Yeah, from a broad picture perspective, tough to do a lot better than the kid did in his first start as a true freshman here at BYU.
He really did well and overcame some adversity, and there's going to be more. There's a certain advantage to being fresh off the bench and not having everybody study your tendencies, and now he'll have some new challenges going forward. But he had a little bit of adversity with the interception there and bounced back from that well. And then this week there will be new adversity, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, you talk about this week. You've got an excellent defense in NIU with an extra week as they had a bye week as well to get ready for a freshman quarterback. So I'm sure they'll try and dial some things up and really challenge them.
They are. They do a really nice job. They've got one of the best pass rushers in college football. I think maybe led the nation in sacks last year. Very active all over the place on defense. Really good players.
Sutton Smith is his name. He has 7 sacks so far, I think, this year. Let's backtrack to the 49-23 win over UH 9 days ago. BYU got the fast start it had really been seeking. BYU scores first, BYU scores second, BYU scores third. 21-0 lead before Hawaii gets on the board. And they've been a team, Ed, as you know, racking up points with a healthy Cole McDonald at quarterback. And they score 23, another win under 24 for BYU.
Yeah, I thought it all started up front, as it has, and that's been a consistent pattern for us, is winning in the trenches, winning up front on offense and defense, and we did that really well, particularly early in the game, established that, and anytime an offense like Hawaii's just wants to come out and kind of throw it around, some would say carelessly, haphazardly. I mean, they're going to get their yards, they're going to get their scores at some point during the game, but the interception there toward the end of the first half was huge as far as punching that to a 21-0 lead.
When a team's going to go 10 personnel or empty all game, 100% of the snaps, basically, does that ratchet up the mindset defensively, and is it an advantage to a team, any team, when they know what they're going to see that way?
Yes
I mean, you
and no.
can say yes and no because they were doing it to other teams, right?
So they're very good, and sometimes we, as coaches especially, I think we put too much stock into kind of knowing what the opponent's doing. Like when the opponent stays in the same personnel or the same formation, it's because they have answers within that personnel, within that formation. But interesting that you say, we saw 16 snaps of empty against Hawaii, and it was a very good adjustment by them. They had only shown 2 snaps in the whole season prior to that, so we weren't as prepared as we would have liked to have been for that empty formation.
What does it do, and how? If you're a defense, how does empty or 10 help you do what you want to do? And then from the other side of it, where's going to be the opposite's advantage when they do play it that way all the time?
So the advantage for them, I feel like, and I know Rolo well enough, he wants to get the ball in space, and in his case, he's got what he feels like is an athletic quarterback who can also run a little bit and gets the ball out on time, and then 2 really good slot receivers, and so he wants to get the ball to those guys in space. Then, in the case of what we can do defensively, like in that game, we were really able to tune up a lot more nickel personnel package, so nickel blitzes, nickel fronts, of what some people would call odd fronts, 3-man fronts, from odd to 4- and 5-man pressures, and even 6-man pressures. And normally, I would just say on average, we might face 5 to 7 snaps per game of 10 personnel, and so it becomes much more difficult to have a whole package where you have blitzes and zones and different fronts all within the nickel package.
Saw some dime as well from you guys, 6 DB occasionally?
We did, yeah, especially toward the end of the game when we knew that they were going to throw, and we kind of grooved into what we felt like would be our best matchups, and we're comfortable playing some man-to-man there down the stretch.
Since we last talked, word came out that you've lost a linebacker for the season. Zane Anderson tried to give it a go, but you had to shut him down.
Yes, and going into that Utah State game, actually the week before that, he was hoping to play the Washington game, kind of a one more game with the new redshirt rule thing after he had gotten hurt at Wisconsin. But he wasn't quite ready for Washington. He felt ready for Utah State. He did some really nice things against Utah State, but he also struggled in his tackling, which is, I don't think that was an issue of the shoulder as much. As because I think he fights through pain really well, but I think it's just lack of practice, at least full speed practice going into the week. So, not the last game he wanted to have, but next year will be that big last season that he wants to have.
Yeah, because this is his senior year, but he'll get it back, right?
He'll get it back. Yeah, he played in only 4 games, and so the great new rule. So this will count as his redshirt year.
Before we hit the break. The Hawaii game, Skylar Southam, all he had to do was kick PATs that night generally. He was 7 for 7 on his points after. A little past the midway point of the season now. He's 20 for 21 on PATs, 5 for 8 on the field goals. How would you say his rookie season is progressing?
Well, I think really good because of the trust that the team has in him, and I think the confidence that he has in himself. He's a kicker that we can really coach hard, and he's mentally tough. And during practice every day, our players see him deliver, and then he's done well enough in the games too. He hasn't had enough opportunities to maybe be talked about on a national level, but with his leg strength and mental toughness, I feel like he's going to be one of the great ones.
We don't talk a ton of NFL on the show, but as we head into our commercial break, I don't know if you saw this yesterday. Ravens were down 7 to the Saints in Baltimore, and Baltimore scores a last-minute touchdown to get within 1, and Justin Tucker kicks the PAT, and you go to overtime. He was 222 for 222 in his pro career, and had never missed in college before that PAT, and he missed in the last minute yesterday.
Yeah, and if you've coached long enough, and I can give you specific examples, but I would bore you and the listeners. But if you've coached long enough and really paid attention to it, there's a certain kind of irritating cheese grater on the forehead. When you hear a fan say, or anybody say, well, let's just take the 3, or as in, take the 3 points, or let's just take the extra point.
Like it's a given.
Like it's a given, it's an automatic, because it's not. And I've had that exact same situation happen, and you don't get to go to overtime.
That's what happened yesterday, and it was amazing because he's Mr. Automatic, and it happens. It happens. Okay, break time on the Coordinator's Corner. We return. More with Special Teams Coordinator Ed Lamb. Stay with us.
my grandfather started this company in 1947, he couldn't have envisioned what we would ultimately become. We realized that our value to our customers is that we will be there day after day, year after year, doing whatever we need to find solutions to the challenges that they face. We are committed to be honestly better in all that we do, in every opportunity that we have to serve our customers.
Tomorrow on BYU Football with Kalani Sitake, the coach recaps the Hawaii game, previews the matchup with Northern Illinois, and answers your questions using the hashtag Sitake Show. Watch BYU Football with Kalani Sitake tomorrow at 8 Eastern on BYU TV.
I ain't got no chill.
The BYU TV Sports Game Day replay. BYU versus Northern Illinois, Saturday on BYU TV.
Some say if you're looking for the soul of America, you'll find it right here in Memphis, Tennessee. But if Memphis is the soul of America, then what's the soul of Memphis? From the banks of the Mississippi to the neon lights of Beale Street, that soul's hiding somewhere, and I've got to put it all in one painting. Join me as we paint the town of Memphis, Tennessee.
Don't miss Painting the Town tomorrow at 8:30 Mountain on BYU TV.
Viewers can get involved by going to randomaxtv.com and nominating either people who need help in their lives or people who are a force of good in their community and just need a step up or something like that, or the recognition that they are a good person. Sometimes that's all you really need, is that recognition that you're a good person. You're a good person. Sorry, I just wanted to give you that recognition.
Don't miss Random Acts tomorrow at 7 Mountain on BYU TV.
Come.
The Coordinator's Corner brought to you by JCW's The Burger Boys. BYU Special Teams Coordinator Ed Lamb with us until the top of the hour this week. 4-3 BYU hosting 4-3 Northern Illinois. First ever meeting between these two programs. Huskies are 4-0 in the MAC. They've won 3 in a row overall. They opened league play. I think lost to Florida State, then got back in league. The quarterback, Ed, is mobile. Marcus Childers ran for $169 in their last game, and he wasn't racking up big numbers before then, but had a huge day against Ohio.
He did, and he's always a threat. It's both part of their design and I think part of their player selection. He is I don't want to say he's a run-first quarterback, but he's just always a threat on every drop-back pass. If he doesn't like the look he sees through the air, he takes off running and does a really good job. He's a patient runner. He's like you said, he's over 200 pounds, and he's able to bring that physicality. He looks very much like he could be a running back or fullback.
Now, they, as an offensive group, they kind of lag. Bottom 5 nationally in pass efficiency, bottom 10 in scoring, second to last nationally in yards per play, but an excellent defense, which is essentially the reason they have the winning record they do, is they compensate fairly well because scores stay low on their own offense. They're keeping scores low defensively.
They have, yeah, they have. I always look like one level deeper when I look at national stats, especially when I have the time to look at the upcoming opponent. And, you know, the thing about Northern Illinois is they score roughly about the same amount of points per game as their opponents give up. And so they've played some really good defenses. I don't know that they're particularly weak on offense. Another example, I think our offense is down in the hundreds in a lot of categories, but we actually score 2 more points than our opponents score on our opponents' defenses on average. So, you know, I think sometimes that first level of looking at averages can be misleading. It's about the teams that you play for the most part.
Their Utah game is fairly indicative of the kind of team they are, though. A game they could have won, I thought, at their place.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that was, like you say, two strong and talented defenses and 2 offenses that haven't been really scoring above average, and that was the result of the game. I think it was a 7-3 game late in the fourth. Utah's leading.
Ended up being 16-7. Was that the final score?
Yeah, 16-7 with an interception
with a pick
return
six.
for a
Chase
touchdown.
Hansen has a pick 6 at the end of that thing. Yeah. BYU this year has already matched last season's win total, and you're 2 wins away from bowl eligibility. And just like you can't necessarily count on a PAT or a field goal being an automatic, those 2 wins are not won until they're done. And yet, that said, there's a really strong belief, I've got to think, that you're going to reach that goal you set before the season, which is to get back in the postseason. Is it a tantalizing thing for the staff, for the players to know you're getting close to at least that benchmark?
I think so. Yeah, there's so many more to look at, and so many times when just the most relevant thing of the moment is to look at the preparation for the moment or the play or the practice, and so hopefully we're striking a balance between looking at long-term goals and short-term objectives.
Between last year's trough or subpar season compared to what has come before it and is ideally going to come after it, are we going to look back on that last season last year and just truly treat it as the ultimate outlier? I mean, how do you think?
Well, I think the further it gets in the rearview mirror, the more that we'll all learn from that, who were a part of it, and there were lessons to be learned, and perhaps some of the successes that we'll have going forward will be because of the struggles that we had in that year, and it presents a new opportunity to look at things and be critical, and also the strength of fighting through a difficult time.
Speaking of difficult times, last year's ECU game was not a real fun night. The second quarterback you saw that night, Gardner Minshew, is now the starting quarterback at Washington State, which is playing really well. And so when they said the name, it rang so familiar, and I went back, and sure enough, he came in for the starter last year in Greenville and played really well and ended up transferring to Pullman, and Mike Leach has those guys playing. Do you keep a national eye on things, or are you just too focused on what's going on here as you should be?
A little bit of both. It's I had heard that and really hadn't had the chance to watch him. But East Carolina was a great offensive team last year, and we knew that they had both depth and talent all over the place.
Back to a couple things relative to your special teams responsibility. Diane Gomwoliku, and of course people know him as a DB, but on special teams against Hawaii, it's another muffed punt recovery for Diane. He's got 2 of them this year. It's not just dumb luck that puts him in that position, is it?
No. Muffed punts are happen fairly regularly, but if you had a whole cut up of maybe 20 of them randomly, you'd see a lot of guys kind of try to fit their way in there for the ball and hesitate about whether they're going after it. And Diane's reaction time and physicality is just, he's got a knack for picking that ball up off the ground. I think it's the third one we've had, one by Mitch Harris, and then 2 by Diane.
Mitch Harris one was at Washington, right?
Washington, yeah.
Return game. Shelton and Hefo taking care of things for the most part there, punt and kickoff. Very few kickoffs, by the way, being fair caught. Did you anticipate that the new rule would have the minimal impact it's appeared to have? Did you kind of say, yeah, this is not going to do what they think?
Yeah, it's I wish I could be on that rules committee, because I've paid attention to it enough years now to know that when a rule is changed, that one of the things that's really difficult for that rules committee to look at and the officials is if there are 2 variables, right? Like one variable I think is fairly easy to predict the outcome, but there's 2 variables, and that is they allow the fair catch to happen, but they say that if the fair catch is muffed, that then the ball will be at that spot right there. And I think that's the problem. And so I think there's some discussion about the risk reward, and just allowing if a fair catch is muffed and then recovered, that it would also come out to the 25-yard line. Because right now that's the reason that we are trying not to fair catch.
For fear of muff.
Yeah, you muff it, which is, it's not as common on a kickoff return, but it's still, you're talking about a huge loss of yardage right there if you muff that thing.
A good 20, at least. 15 to 20, depending on where you catch that thing, ideally, yeah.
Yeah, and you figure on most of those where you would be fair catching that are deeper, that wouldn't be an obvious fair catch, you're going to have the chance to get it out past the 15 anyway.
Right.
So it's a big risk.
Do you think they're going to tweak it?
I think so, because the whole goal, remember, the whole objective is to decrease the number of kickoff returns.
It was player safety was the decrease the number of high-speed collisions, essentially, right?
Yeah, and or just move the kick. Like us, for example, we only have 8 kickoff returns, and a big part of that is we faced kickers that put it in the end zone. And so if they just move the line of scrimmage up, then of course that would have the desired effect. It's really difficult to start bringing it out of the back of your end zone.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. Heading to break on the Coordinator's Corner. When we return, it's our final segment with Coach Ed Lamb. Your social media questions for the coach. Use hashtag #CCBYU as we continue live on BYU TV, BYU Radio, and ESPN 960, along with BYU Football Facebook Live. We're back right after this.
In the timeline of life, you make choices every day, like buying your first car, what a beaut, or serving your mission. You come home and hop right into college. And then that magic day comes, marriage. Getting married is incredible and pricey. But you know what? Children are even pricier. Your family grows and you need that first home. No matter where you are in the timeline of life, Deseret First Credit Union is right there with you. DFCU, your values, your timeline, your financial future.
This is where we dominate. Our playground, place of business. This is our promised land, where we seek to find ourselves. And we're here to make sure the spaces our best prove themselves on appear how they should. Intermountain Healthcare, official medical provider for BYU Athletics.
This October, see the good in the world with exciting shows on BYU TV. Laugh till you cry with all new episodes of your favorite sketch comedy known as Studio C, Mondays at 7 Mountain. Visit with Kalani Sitake as we discuss the BYU football team on BYU Football with Kalani Sitake, Tuesdays at 6 Mountain. It's a new season of Relative Race with more puzzles, relatives, and surprises along the way. Sundays at 7 Mountain. There's something for everyone here on BYU TV.
I'm Dave McCann. Tomorrow on After Further Review, a look back at Hawaii and a look ahead to Northern Illinois. Blaine Fowler, David Nixon, and Brian Logan explain the game tomorrow night at 7 Eastern, 5 Mountain on BYU TV.
Blue runs deep on BYU TV. Don't miss the BYU San Francisco women's soccer game Thursday at 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. Watch all of your favorite BYU teams on BYU TV, your home for Cougar sports.
You today.
Dinner after the game at JCW's includes something for everybody, from burgers to wings, shakes to salads. JCW's quality and a lot of it in Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, and coming soon to Harriman. Special teams coordinator Ed Lamb with us until the top of the hour. BYU hosting Northern Illinois Saturday afternoon at LaVell Stadium. So a 1:30 kick this week. And Coach Lamb, you may have heard the Boise State time got set for up there, 8:15.
Oh, okay. Another 8:15 game.
Yeah, another. Coach Grimes was telling me off the air he's never seen a team with more 15 after the hour starts at night than BYU. We get a lot of those.
Yeah, we do. Like that's that ESPN contract,
the
ESPN
window
opportunity to play there on national television. So good for the team, good for our boys.
Personal preference, afternoons versus evenings for you?
Well, I think, just personal preference as far as going home, spending some time with the family after the game and enjoying some college football games on TV. Absolutely, the afternoon games are great. But overall, big picture, to have the chance to be on national television and what that means to our program and our opportunity to recruit and build, I think is really critical.
Okay. Social media now, at @S_W_Nelson. You know who you are on Twitter. The person writes, I noticed the trick punt return against Hawaii wasn't maybe as successful as I thought it could be, the writer states. Any chance that specific return gets used again?
It's kind of a niche return. That's a good observation. Our trick returner wasn't able to catch it in stride. The punter actually put a pretty good leg on it. But typically what we look for is a punter who tries to spray it around the field and keep the returner from catching it. And when that happens, when a team elects to use that, then their coverage can be confused sometimes. And so that was the look of that. And we got I think it was 7 or 8, maybe 10 yards out of it, but it wasn't the home run hit that we're looking for in that situation. Speaking
of the return teams, generally speaking, are Michael, Shelton, and Aleva Hifo giving you what you hoped they would this year?
They are, yeah. I think they both would have higher hopes for themselves. Michael's been pretty good on the punt returns. Has made some things out of no things or no opportunities. And Leva, I think we can get that kickoff return game going a lot better. So any of the inefficiencies so far, I would put that more on myself and feel like we can do better and will do better with increased opportunities.
Okay, time to play a Pick a Stat, new feature on the show here. I have 22 random BYU stats in front of me. Coach Grimes took number 2 and number 12, so those are not available to you. Some are offensive, some are defensive, some may have special teams components, but we're asking you to kind of oversee everything here. So pick a number between 1 and 22, but not 2 or 12.
Yeah, how about 15?
How about 15? All right, 15. BYU is 97-1 in its last 98 games when leading by 14 or more at halftime. BYU took a 28-3 lead to the locker room against Hawaii. 14-point lead's big. There have been bigger leads, but wow, 97-1 when you can get out to a 2-touchdown lead at the break. So I guess do more of that would be the moral of that story.
Yeah, that's
a pretty remarkable number, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that 2-touchdown, it's a lock for you guys at that point.
Yeah.
And that goes back years and years.
That is, yeah. I guess that's just more of an observation, kind of hard to comment on.
It's an intuitive thing. Yeah, but it's like, okay, good, do more of that. All right, that was 15. What else do you have for us? Number?
How about 22?
22. All right. So we'll see if the last is actually any good. No. Again, this is nothing really other than just an observation. 49 points, the most that BYU scored since beating UMass 51-9 back in 2016.
Oh.
You scored 49 against Hawaii. That was your highest scoring game since the 51 points against UMass. Remember that game?
I do. Yeah, I was just wondering. I think it might be our highest offensive total for a greater period of time. I thought we had a blocked punt for a touchdown against UMass, or maybe it was just deep in their own territory where it ended up, or a defensive score that game. I can't remember.
Okay, that's 22. Another number for us here.
1.
Oh, it's a good one. After being called for defensive pass interference 5 times in the first 3 games, we discussed that, BYU's been whistled for 0 DPI calls in the last 4 games. What's going on? How'd that happen?
Well, probably a couple of things. I know that our corners learned from that, and we don't want to be a team that's executing pass interference down the field. We want to be a team that's able to get in good position, get our eyes around, and play the ball even in man-to-man coverage. Another thing might be we really left our guys, felt like that we could win on the outside in man-to-man coverage against Arizona, and that they weren't capable of hitting the deep ball in stride and as much as some of the other teams. And so other games we've played more zone defense, and the corners aren't as likely to commit pass interference in zone defense.
But if DPI was an issue early, it hasn't been as the season has gone along, and I guess that's what you want to see, is if something gets addressed and technique improves and things get fixed.
Yeah, I think so very much. I've seen just continued growth out of our corners all year long.
Okay, we have some more numbers for you, Ed. You want to keep going here?
Sure.
Okay, what do you have for us?
How about 5?
5. Oh, I like this one. Last season, this is an offensive number. Last season, BYU faced 3rd and 11 or longer on 26 occasions. So they say offense now. Faced 3rd and 11 plus on 26 occasions, converted 2 times. Just the 2. This year, BYU's been 3rd and 11 or longer 17 times and has converted 5 already. So the conversion rate's gone from just under 8% to almost 30%. So 4 times better by rate at 3rd and longs. And again, it's an offensive situation, but what would you say about how BYU is able to overcome or show some resiliency there?
Well, overall, I'd just say that's remarkable, the improvement there. I don't know. I don't have those plays in my mind, so I can't really point to any specific reason. But I know that we got a group of guys. I alluded to it earlier. There was a lot to learn from last year, and not just about a coaching change on offense. A lot for the players to learn, a lot for our players to grow, and a lot for our coaches to continue to grow and try to grow the program. So hopefully that's just an indication that things are getting better.
I'll flip it to a defensive application there. I do know that before the UH game, BYU's defense had not allowed a 3rd and 10 or longer to be converted all year. I think UH got a couple long ones against BYU, but really through 6 games, none of those 3rd and 10 pluses had been converted, which is a pretty amazing thing too. That rate was a lot better than the 2017 season as well. And sometimes 3rd and longs become 4th and shorts that get converted, but for the most part, the BYU defense has really been excelling on those 3rd and longs, and so kudos to you and the defensive coaches.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's always nice to get off the field when it's 3rd and long.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. We will see you next week, Coach Lamb along with Coach Tuiaki. Cool? All right, we'll see you then. All right, that'll do it for the Coordinator's Corner. We're back next week with Coaches Lamb and Tuiaki as we review BYU NIU and get ready for the trip to Boise State. Thanks to producer Jason Shepard, Michael Miner, and the crew from BYU TV and from BYU Radio, Sean O'Neill, Terry South, Sean Fay, Sterling Richards, and Don Shaline. I'm Greg Wrubell. We're also going to thank Aaron Fitchner. This has been the Coordinator's Corner. We'll talk to you next week. So long.
I ain't got no chill.
The BYU TV Sports Postgame. BYU versus Northern Illinois. Saturday after the game.
This is my passion, giving service, helping people. Everybody starts out as somebody's baby, somebody's child. You couldn't find a better job to even serve yourself, because I'll